So the next question is one near and dear to my heart, which is there such a thing as evil? And what role does it play in the global domination agenda? Now, you're going to find a lot of different opinions about evil. So, if I'm going to discuss evil with someone, the first thing I do is say, would you please define evil for me? So we don't end up arguing about different assumptions. Same thing I do if someone wants to talk about God. I say, well, could you give me your definition of God? And I found very often where we would have had major disagreements once we each define what we mean by God. It's like, oh yeah, that's what I was talking about in the first place. So, but specifically now, in terms of evil, I personally don't believe that there is like a second force. There's the life force, which wants to grow things, and you see it all around you in the trees and human beings and the birds and the insects and flowers and so forth. I don't think that there's a separate life force that is evil that wants to destroy all of that. However, there are people who act in evil ways. And so, my definition of evil is being aware of the destructive impact of your behavior on other beings and going ahead and doing it anyway. So, I do think that that exists in the world. But when I've spent time tracing back, okay, what's the root of evil? Is this some, uh, fork-tailed devil with the horns, in some sort of netherland, plotting and scheming against us? I don't think so. I think that's at best a metaphoric representation of the type of behavior that some people get caught in. And so, how does evil start occurring in a human being? I think the simplest explanation is that they are abused into dissolving their integrity as a human being. And this is what the Nazis were doing in the prison camps. This is what the MK Ultra movement has been doing in the U.S. The mind control movement that came from the research of the Nazis and has literally hundreds of thousands of programmed people around the world that they have literally shattered their lives and their psyches and then retrained different personalities within that one person as couriers, as assassins, and as sex slaves. And this is well documented. I've spoken with many people who literally were victims of this and escaped. The firsthand reports jive with each other. It's one of the ugliest things on the planet, one of the most evil things on the planet. But as I've traced back the histories of the people that I know of who are behind a lot of this, and you can find a bunch of it in a book called Political Ponerology, Ponerology. This book was written in Europe and banned very quickly in Europe, but I believe it's even available on Amazon now, but you can get the copies. And it basically takes a lot of these famous psychopaths and goes back into their childhood and literally shows when and how they started being abused into thinking that their only choices were either rule or be ruled, and where they were indoctrinated into cutting off their compassion and their empathy and their experience of love so that they could actually go ahead and pull off these horrible acts without essentially feeling it emotionally. But I do believe that that person's core essence was at one time whole and that then it was broken. Now, usually I think it was broken in this lifetime. I believe from my research that it's very possible in many cases that it was broken in a prior lifetime. Some people, you can come out literally as toddlers in a wholesome environment, and there's a movies have been made about this phenomenon where there are some things going on inside of them that sometimes has actually been traced by mystics and so forth to events in past lives and then healed for that person in this lifetime. I can't prove that, but there's pretty overwhelming evidence for it, and I think it's a possibility worth considering. So, is evil uh, a part of the global domination agenda? For me, absolutely. You don't get to be a leader in the secret societies that run the global domination agenda unless you have not only proven that you're capable of this type behavior, but also the other members of the group have on you what they call collateral, which is where they have secrets that you have divulged, or they've either got you on video, sexually abusing a child, or physically abusing someone, or if you weren't willing to do that, many people get drugged and put in compromising situations, and then photographs are taken that they're going to have difficulty denying, without at least losing their careers and reputations and so forth. So this is the setup that not only allows but promotes most psychopathic behavior to the top of authoritarian structures. And that's why freedom is so important, because if you have authoritarian structures based on coercion and deception, of course you're going to have psychopaths running them, and then they collaborate into cartels that end up with the goal of running the world from the point of view of psychopaths. And that's exactly, horrible as it is to even think about, that's exactly the situation we're in right now. And I believe we're on the verge of either that wins for some period of time, that will I'll go into that in a moment. Either that takes over for some period of time, or we keep pulling back from the cliff into more and more local and then individual sovereignty, and people find en masse the principles of freedom and organize around that rather than power, money, and force. So is evil a lack of love? So I would say to someone, okay, what's your working definition of love? And everybody's got a different definition. My working definition of love, as I say in Thrive 2, is not, are you turned on to this person? Do you feel romantic with that person? I'm talking about the big love that we're all longing for, which I define as the experience of being in harmony with the flow of the unified field, or in harmony with life energy, which is the meaning of Aikido, which I trained and taught for 15 years. So in order to do evil behavior, which is doing destructive behavior consciously, in order to do that, you have to separate from the harmony of the field, from the force. And my Aikido teacher used to say, if someone is going to attack you, they are by definition already out of touch with the source of life energy themselves. So it's going to show that they're both badly trained and will lack clarity and will lack power, real power, because they're not in harmony with the universe that they're a part of. So I would say yes, if the experience of love is being in harmony with life energy, then evil is behavior coming out of being out of harmony with life energy.